Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. It gives me great pleasure to welcome back a friend, Governor Doug Ducey of Arizona, in his second term. Many people call him, including me, the most successful governor in America, and I could spend a long time talking about a 2.5% flat tax, the border measures he's taken, the drug interdiction, the school choice, which has blossomed in Arizona like nowhere else. I could talk about Taiwan Semiconductor coming there. I could talk about the very, very sane and reasonable COVID approach. The most conservative state Supreme Court, given Doug Ducey's appointments, or his work as the chair of the Republican Governors Association, elected that twice. But Doug Ducey, good morning, welcome. I want to start with the first thing you did in office. How are you this morning, Governor?
I'm very good, Hugh. Thanks for having me this morning.
7.5 years ago, the very first bill you signed is a bill I wish it has passed in about another 30. I think you set the path for a couple of dozen other states. Tell us about how you get to graduate in Arizona.
Well, Hugh, you have to pass the American Civics Act. You have to pass the same test that a new naturalized American citizen has to pass. I just think it's so important that our young people know the foundations and fundamentals of what make our country so special and great. Some of the precepts from the Declaration and the Constitution, along with certain points of history. And then I hope our K-12 education system will continue to build on that so they understand their American civics and history along the way.
You see, a lot of conservatives spend their time rightly pulling out their hair over CRT, but not thinking about what ought to replace it. And the way back to sanity is to actually dust off things like the American Civics Act. And have other governors followed your lead on this?
Other governors have followed my lead on this. Believe it or not, this has been a bipartisan idea.
Sure.
And this idea is we're going to continue to discuss and debate, but let's have these arguments from our foundational documents like the Declaration, the Constitution, the Federalist Papers. And if we can whet that appetite for young people to understand how we got to where we are, how we've continually improved over the decades for this vision and goal of a more perfect union, perhaps they can see that they shouldn't look with such dispersion on people that came before us, that they were living in their own time. And 200 years from now, people will probably look back on us and think that we weren't as enlightened as them, but this should be the upward climb.
You know, the old saying about Western governors is that they always speak for freedom when nobody else does, and they're always more patriotic. That goes back to Ronald Reagan running for president in 1976 and then successfully in 1980. Is there something about the West, Doug Ducey, that makes it less hospitable to the left-wing extremism that has swept some of the East Coast and our Ivy League schools?
Well, I do think because the West is so wide open, because it is so welcoming. You think of a beautiful place like Arizona where over 70% of the adults were born somewhere else. So these people packed up their U-Haul truck and said, I'm going to move someplace where life is better. I'm going to pursue the American dream the way that I see it. And I do think the blue sky optimism that we enjoy out west is something that is, and I say this as a very proud son of Toledo, Ohio. It was a great place to grow up, but I thank God every morning that I live in Arizona today.
Yeah, we are Buckeyes both, and you can take the people out of Ohio, but you can't take the Ohio out of them. But it merges nicely.
That's right.
Yeah, but it merges nicely with the wide open spaces thing. Now, I am curious, Governor, about the school choice initiative that you put forward. Again, people are complaining about public schools. The answer is choice. What has Arizona done on choice?
Well, Arizona leads the nation on school choice. We're the number one state in the nation. We have over 550 charter schools. Those are public schools open to everyone with private management. Some of our most successful systems have an 11,000 kid wait list. We have 28% of our public schools are these charter schools. Over 20% of our children are in these charter schools. If you take those 20% of kids, that's the number one state in the nation in terms of achievement in math, reading, science, and American civics. And we've seen that also improve our district K-12 schools. So I do think that America never really solves a problem. We tend to innovate out of it. We think this innovation, like charter schools, like educational savings accounts, think backpack funding or scholarships, are the way to let 1,000 flowers bloom, let parents make decisions on behalf of their children, different kids learn different ways, and let the marketplace help decide.
Now, when you became governor, you inherited a massive deficit, and somehow you managed to solve that and to cut taxes. What is Arizona's flat tax now?
Our flat tax is 2.5%. It's the lowest flat tax in the nation. And I did inherit a $1 billion deficit. And now that I'm heading into my final term and final year, I'm going to share the secret with other folks out there. How Arizona got out of that deficit is we simply spent less than we were bringing in, just like every family and small business does. We actually tightened our belt. Governments don't seem to do that, but it can be done, Hugh. And today we have fewer people by head count in state government while having more child safety workers, more state troopers, but fewer administrators, fewer bureaucrats, and 400,000 new jobs in the state of Arizona, 52% population growth over the past generation.
You mentioned more state troopers, and you're taking me there. The big headline of the morning is 107,000 fentanyl deaths in the United States in 2021. That fentanyl is coming over an unpoliced federal border, Governor Ducey. What are you doing? The governors can't do much. You and Greg Abbott do what you can. I'm not sure what Gavin Newsom is doing. But what are you doing to try and stop that since the federal government isn't?
Well, it's heartbreaking. It's a complete dereliction of duty of the Biden administration. I met with Customs and Border Protection yesterday. It was a very unsatisfying meeting. They're still looking for the root causes in South America. They don't realize the root cause is actually in the Oval Office. We have a border strike force in Arizona. Governor Abbott and I partnered along with 25 other Republican governors for an American governor's border strike force. That's a surge of more badges to the border out of our state budget and the Texas state budget. We deployed the National Guard, and we're also sharing intelligence with other states. When you talk about those heartbreaking fentanyl overdoses, those aren't just happening in Arizona. Those are happening in Omaha, Nebraska, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Toledo, Ohio. Every state today is a border state, and why Joe Biden will not pay attention to the southern border, which was largely solved under the Trump-Pence administration. The walls do work, surveillance works, boots on the ground work, and clear communication to Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras that the border is not open and you will be turned away if you make that dangerous journey and let these cartels try to take advantage of you and your life savings. So we really do need a partnership. If our southern border is not secure, neither is our nation, and that's how this poison is coming in.
Let's also talk, Governor, about Taiwan Semiconductor, because I think this is the future of America depends upon our supply chain getting solved. The worst part of the supply chain problem has been chips, and even President Biden recognizes that. How did Arizona land Taiwan Semiconductor?
It was a competitive process. We made the pitch. We stayed with it. It took several years. I think Arizona is the best place in the country to live, work, raise a family, and scale a business. The executives at Taiwan Semiconductor agree, and the size, scope, and scale of this project is overwhelming. Hugh, it's 667,000 square foot for a fab, and we're building 20 of those fabs. So the people that work there, the distribution, the supply chain, that they'll live in our neighborhoods, they'll go to our excellent public schools, and we're excited about that. They'll also enjoy school choice. The other thing I want to say about Taiwan Semiconductor is we do need the United States Senate to pass the CHIPS Act. These chips are in everything from our phones to our cars to our kitchen appliances. So when you see the slowdown in the supply chain, oftentimes it's because they can't get these manufactured chips. A lot of this is on our United States Senate that seems to be stuck on other issues or wanting to make this bill a Christmas tree rather than passing this so we can have continued supply chain smoothness and more of an increase in production in our semiconductor industry.
Now, Governor Ducey, before I turn to the RGA and the map, because I do want to catch up with you on the map, you're running the RGA's effort to turn some other state houses red. I want to talk about the Arizona Supreme Court. This is real inside baseball, but people need to know. The most, at least the equal of any conservative originalist court is in Arizona because you managed to put 3 or 4 justices on it. What did you look for when you put justices on the Arizona Supreme Court?
Well, thank you, Hugh. We are proud of the Arizona State Supreme Court. I do believe it is a conservative court because we look for strict constructionists. We look for people that want to embrace the Constitution. What I actually ask people through the interview process at the end, when they ask what I'm looking for, I say I'm looking for somebody who doesn't want to be governor or doesn't want to be a state legislator, that will actually embrace the judicial branch and embrace the role of a judge and call balls and strikes and actually interpret the law rather than try to write the law. The first person I was able to name to the Arizona Supreme Court was Clinton Bullock, who at the time was the chief litigator at the Goldwater Institute. And since then, I think we've really been able to build on that with each successive nomination and confirmation.
Now, I want audience to know, I went through policy first so that people understand Republicans govern well, and Doug Ducey, the equal of any of them. Now let's talk about the politics. What's the RGA see when it looks at the map for 2022?
Lots of opportunity. We're on offense, Hugh. We believe that these blue state governors are really going to pay a heavy price for their behavior during the COVID-19 pandemic. Shuttering businesses, shutting schools, unnecessary vaccine and mask mandates. There's a lot of angry suburban moms out there and small business owners that want them to pay a price. We're going to protect our incumbents. Our incumbents have earned and deserved re-election. We're going to keep our red states red, but we're going to many blue states, and we've proven that we can win anywhere in the country already. I don't know if people know that we've already got Republican governors in places like Massachusetts with Charlie Baker, Larry Hogan in Maryland. Even Phil Scott and Bernie Sanders, Vermont, is the Republican governor. So we have good candidates. They're going through the nomination process right now. We've got a big winner the night before last in Nebraska. We're excited and confident that he'll follow Pete Ricketts. And then in a couple weeks, we've got Georgia, Alabama, following that, New Hampshire. And, you know, it's every Tuesday is going to be an exciting night. And then it's a race to November 8th.
That's what Maggie Thatcher used to say, win the argument, then you win the election. I think Governor Doug Ducey and his Republican colleagues in the RGA have done that. Governor, thank you for joining me this morning. Continued success on your time inside the Beltway.